AITA for telling my dad that horse is dead when he asked if we could have a relationship? My mom and dad married young and had 6 ladder-step kids. The longest gap in ages between us is 27 months. My dad found a job that paid well, but he would be home for 2 weeks every 3 months or so. When he was home, he'd show some interest in us, but most times he'd be sleeping or watching TV. One night when he was gone for work and we were with our aunt since my mom had to work, the whole neighborhood broke into our house and completely destroyed and stole everything. When my mom took the cops to our neighbor's house, she pointed out every house that helped and said what they took because she wouldn't be the only one in trouble. After that, we went to our aunt's and my mom called my dad, told him what happened and asked him repeatedly to come home. He chose to stay at work. After that night we didn't see him for about a year and a half. When he did show up, it would be in sporadic intervals from 10 mth to 2 apart and only for a few minutes at a time, but always when my mom wasn't around. When I turned 14, he started coming around more often and started spending an hour or 2 with us every couple months. He took a special interest in us living with him and would make a point to say it every time he saw us. At 15 I moved in and everything went to downhill fast. He started mentally and verbally attacking my looks and my body. He'd talk about women often and how they should always submit no matter what. He would give me something only to take it back. He gave me an allowance but would be mad if I spent it. He got upset with me for not talking to him enough, but would give one-word responses when I tried to start a conversation. Then there was a situation where I found some pretty damning evidence of his mistreatment of my mom on his computer. I was a busy kid with little to no free time. I was in sports, after-school clubs, student council, theater, and prom/homecoming committee. When homecoming came around I asked if I could go. He agreed and was reminded almost every week of when it was. The night of homecoming, when my date arrived to pick me up, he pulls me to the side and said I can't go because I had to help him pack and move out of our house. Completely blindsided because what? We did not discuss moving, and why would you wait until homecoming night to say something? We went back and forth for a little bit and I offered to come straight home afterwards instead of spending the night with my friends like I intended. He was annoyed but agreed. The dance was over at 9, I got home at 9:45. I was helping pack along with some cousins he invited over, but I guess I wasn't going fast enough. He started yelling and he ended up laying hands on me. I left immediately and called my aunt who came to get me. He started flooding my phone with texts and calls saying how ungrateful I am, how I cost him so much money, how bad of a person I am, etc. I didn't respond to any of it. After about 2 months, I started reaching out to him about my clothes and belongings, asking if we could talk, etc. He never responded and blocked my number. I went to his house a few months after that, but when he opened the door and saw it was me, he slammed the door in my face and started cussing at me through the door until I left. It has been almost 12 years since then. On to a few weeks ago, I get a text from a random number calling me by name. Me, who is this? Him, it's your dad. Me, what do you want? Him, I want to see about me being your dad and you being my daughter. A wave of confusion, disbelief, and finally rage washed over me all at once. I responded that horse is dead. He waited a few minutes and replied, it's not dead, just on life support, but with some work, it can get better. I blocked him and called my mom. She said, that's still your dad. You need to let that hurt go and talk to him. Her response is what has me second-guessing the way I handled this situation and has me thinking that maybe I was a little too harsh. Maybe trying to explore a relationship with him is something I should do. However, if this were a random person doing these things, it would be cut and dry to never speak to them again, so why should I give him another chance just because we are related? Why should I do the work on his terms when he wasn't willing to meet me or speak to me on mine? Why do I feel like the bad guy for making a stance for my own mental well-being? Why is it okay for him to mistreat everyone and only when he's ready is when it will be resolved? Should I listen to my mom instead and just talk to him anyway? AITA? Update. Hello everyone, I wanted to start by thanking everyone who commented. I don't know how to do an edit, so in posting answering some questions and addressing some comments I feel need clarification. I will update in a separate post because this might get long, so apologies in advance. I'm long-winded, deal with it. LOL. My mother, for all the people downing on my mother. Just know. Find somewhere else to dump your trauma. My mother is a hard worker and giver and has been all her life. She graduated HS at 16, was a regional manager by 20, and purchased her first house in cash by 22. Needless to say, she was, and still is, doing well for herself. She volunteers to feeding programs, clothes/shoe giveaways, she donates money to charity, buys strangers food and clothes, babysits kids of struggling parents, or helps them financially, take meals and clothes to senior citizens, even gives what she has right off her back. She has always been a giver and has a big heart for everyone. Even the people talking bad about her, she would still see that your needs are met. Sometimes a little kindness goes a long way. The break-in. Some people saying it's fake, I wish it was. We were terrified and I hope that never happens to anyone. Like I said, my mother was well off, but we lived in a not so well off neighborhood. The kids in the house behind us would steal our stuff often. They took our bikes, our balls, our swimming pool, our coats, or clothes if we left them outside. Sometimes we'd get home and they'd be running out of our backyard because they were playing on our playset, which they eventually took too. When we would tell her, she'd say, just let them have it. If they had to steal it, they may not have a way to get it themselves. Then she'd go buy us another one, because she's always been forgiving to others. However, because of this, the neighborhood knew we had nice things in our house. The night of the break-in, that was the house she took the cops to. The mother of the kids is the one who told on 5 other houses. Surprise, surprise, they were all related. So it was basically one big family, all living close to each other who did it. When we left to live with our aunt, they broke into our house 3 more times after that, I guess to get what they didn't take the last time. 3. The evidence on the computer. There were emails of him asking his cousins and siblings to lie for him, saying they saw him send my mom more money than he did, or how they witnessed my mom not letting him see us. There were court documents of their divorce proceedings, and a list of things he asked for, including a house my mom helped her sister purchase and the house we were currently living in that she bought with her own money before they were together. Lastly, a bunch of recordings of my dad calling my mom on the phone, without her knowledge or consent, and basically provoking her repeatedly to try to get a reaction. During the calls, he brought us up many times and called her a terrible mother for keeping him away from us, among many other things I won't repeat. She reminded him, he chose to leave us and that wasn't on her. She never kept us from him. He's a grown man and it's not her responsibility to make sure he maintains a relationship with his own children. There was a bunch of back and forth, but I guess she never gave him the reaction he was looking for because they all ended the same. He always got mad and ended up yelling, to which she said, if you can't be an adult and talk, I'm hanging up. While most of these were sort of old, there were a few that were recent at the time, like really recent. The last recording I listened to was 2 weeks after I moved in. He told her that he finally got me to move in with him because I told him I hated her since she's a bad mom. That was the one that broke her. She started crying and basically told him he can say whatever he wanted to say, but that wouldn't change anything. She would be praying for him to find peace in his soul so he won't have to put others down just to feel powerful. To this he laughed, told her she's being emotional, then said whatever. Here we go with your fake tears. Are you done? And hung up laughing. I was disgusted and above all, pissed. This whole time he's been telling me how much he missed us, how it's not his fault he doesn't see us more often, and how he's always wanted us. Reality hit me and turns out, it was just lies. I never told him she was a bad parent or that I hated her. He was absolutely using me just to get under her skin. Using his own child like a pawn in his ultimate get-back game to hurt the mother of his kids after essentially trying to make us homeless in court. I realized that's why he had been adamant about asking every time he saw us to move in, and why he always made it seem like a dream to live with him. He wanted his court case to be stronger so he could legally steal from her. He coerced and manipulated me, and like a dummy, I fell for it, and I started to hate him for it. Towards the end of our relationship, I absolutely became distant, stopped talking to him unless I had to, and barely ate. I was a busy kid because I didn't want to be home. I figured if I drowned myself in sports, after-school programs, or volunteer work, it would be less time I'd have to be around him, so that's what I did. 4. The conversation with my mom. Of course the conversation was a lot longer than the 4 words I shared on my post, and her comment I shared was not the end of the conversation. We talked for about an hour and a half about it. At first she was listening, asking a question every now and again, and overall letting me vent. She made the comment I shared, and when I voiced the same concerns I voiced on here, she heard me out. She said I should forgive him, not for him, but for me, because she doesn't want me holding on to hate in my heart, and not to have regrets about not pursuing a relationship if he were to pass away. She never pressured me or made me think that was the only option I had. At the end of the conversation, she said it was my decision and she'd support me in whatever choice I made. She is the furthest from a doormat, an enabler, or weak like some of you said. She is the strongest person I know, because who among you can look at someone who did all that, but still forgive them? Update 2. Hello all. Before the update, I wanted to say thanks for showing love and support. The sheer amount of comments on my post was a bit overwhelming since I wasn't expecting it to blow up the way it did. Thanks to everyone who sent words of affirmation and shared your own stories. That probably wasn't the easiest thing for you to do, and I appreciate your bravery, honesty, and vulnerability. On to the update. A few days after I blocked my dad, my siblings randomly started asking about him and if I had spoken to or wanted to hang out with him. This was weird for several reasons since, 1. We never talk about him at all, and 2. They knew from past conversations I don't want to have a relationship with him. So if they do talk about him, it's never with me. At first I was brushing it off, but after a few times, I started inquiring why they kept asking. They'd either changed the subject or made an excuse like, no reason, or I was just curious. About 3 weeks ago, I was talking to my older brother and he mentioned having to run an errand. I offered to go with him. He hesitated, changed the subject and tried to leave. I asked what he was going to do since I had stuff to do also. That's when he said to fix a truck. He said he won't be long, so I asked whose truck he was going to go look at and if he needed my help again. That's when he finally said it was our dad's truck. Confused, I asked how long he'd been talking to our dad for him to feel comfortable to go help him fix his truck. Apparently this isn't new news. My brother has been seeing and helping our dad for years. From that conversation, I found out all of my siblings had been talking to and meeting up with our dad. They'd go to his house, dinners, shopping, shows, etc. Side note, no, I haven't told my siblings about the things I found on his computer, or about the things he said to me while I was living with him. I don't think that will do anything but cause more confusion or strife. If they choose to be around him and he is being a dad to them, then great for them. Anyway, after I blocked him, I guess he asked them to ask me why I wouldn't speak with him. I was kind of upset with them because none of them had the decency to just be honest with me about their intentions and why they kept bringing it up, but I was more upset with our dad because why aren't you respecting my answer? I started to be a bit distant from my siblings because of this, and my oldest sister noticed. She came to me about a week ago and asked if I wanted to join them for a family dinner. I said no thanks, so she left it alone. A few days later, she asked again. My answer hadn't changed, so she said I should just try it. She assured me she'd sit beside me or in between us if my only option was to sit by our dad. She said I didn't have to talk to him if I didn't want to and could just talk to her, but she wanted me to be there too. Maybe because I wanted answers from him. Maybe to get her to leave me alone about it. Maybe just to see what I would feel like being around him after all this time. Maybe it was none of these, or all of them at once. I think I was just over the whole thing, so I agreed to go. And oh boy, did it go. So 2 nights ago we all met up at a restaurant. When I pulled up, my dad was waiting outside the building. I sat in the car until the rest of my siblings got there and we all walked up together. When our dad saw me, he went to hug me, but I walked past him. He moved to the front of me as we were walking so he could hold the door open for me. I just gave an awkward side eye and walked in the door. When we were seated, I sat at the furthest end of the table away from him, and my sister sat beside me like she said she would. She touched my hand under the table and whispered, "Just breathe," to me. I hadn't realized how tense I was until she said that because I could physically feel my body relax then get really hot after I exhaled. At first, my dad tried to talk to me and ask questions about life, but I only gave 1 or 2 word responses or a head nod. Eventually, he started talking to the rest of my siblings. I spent the rest of the time mainly in silence, just pushing the food on my plate around. Towards the end of the meal, I excused myself to the restroom but left my bag and phone there. When I got back to the table, everyone was gone, and so was my stuff. I looked out the window and saw them walking towards the cars, so I went to head out to see who had my stuff. When I came to the front doors, my dad was waiting there blocking the doorway with my stuff in his hands. I looked at my stuff and then at him. He went to hug me again, but I took a step back. He started talking about how he wanted us to be a family and how he knows I'm mad at him right now, etc., but honestly I just started to disassociate. In his whole speech, I never heard an apology. Just how my emotions were keeping me from opening back up to him like old times. After a while, I reached for my stuff again, and that's when he grabbed me and hugged me. I wanted to push him off, but I'm barely over 5 foot and he's a lot taller and stronger than I am. He said, "You know I love you, right? Right? Right?" And wouldn't let go of me until I said sure. He kissed my forehead, handed me my stuff and left out the door. At this point, I'm just numb. I cried all the tears I could, I've screamed all the screams, grieved the childhood I'll never have and the future I can't see him in. Grieved all the memories only I have to share with myself. Like being the youngest MVP as a freshman on a team of seniors who went to states and won 3rd place. Like how I broke the school record 3 years in a row, or how whenever I was on stage during a play, I saw everyone's parent but my own. How I walked myself out on senior recognition night and waved to a crowd full of strangers alone. How I never got to go to a daddy/daughter anything, or how I could never call him up to talk about my day or boy trouble. How he won't be the one walking me down the aisle, or be a part of my children's life if or when I have them. This night solidified to me the hunger I had for him to show that he actually wanted me was gone. The anticipation of him saying, "Baby, I messed up, how can we fix it together?" That never came. At the end of the day, he was still him. A smooth talker who only wants what he wants and nothing more. I've checked out with him and I don't think I'll be opening up this door again. Sorry this isn't the rainbows and sunshine ending some of you were expecting, but life doesn't always go to plan. I will continue to work on me and trying my best to be the example my mother set for me to forgive. However, I guess that brings me to the only question that's left unanswered. Can I truly and deeply forgive him and never want to see him again? At this point, I just feel indifference towards him.